Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Hera English School online teaching. Today inshallah in English subject we are going to see 3.3 lesson, that is Stephen Hawking. Now Stephen Hawking was a famous scientist as we know him. On the 8th of January 1942 he was born. He is an English theoretical physicist, cosmologist, author and director of research at the Center of Theoretical Cosmology within the Cambridge University. Hawking was the first to set out a theory of cosmology explaining by a union of the general theory of relativity and quantum machine. Hawking is an honorary fellow of the Royal Society of Arts (FRSA), a lifetime member of the Pontifical Academy of Science, and a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the US. Now this lesson gives us an insight about the great scientist, his life and his work. Whatever the great work he has done, that all is depicted in this lesson. Let us see the first paragraph. Stephen Hawking was born on January 8, 1942 and is a British scientist, professor and author who has done groundbreaking work in physics and cosmology, and whose books have helped to make society accessible to the science by everyone. At the age of 21, while studying cosmology at the University of Cambridge, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, that is ALS. Part of his life story was depicted in the 1914 film The Theory of Everything. Over the years, Stephen Hawking has written or co-written a total of 15 books. A few of the most noteworthy included: in 1988, Hawking catapulted. What do you mean by catapulted? That is launched, started, to international prominence with the publication of A Brief History of Time. The short informative book became an account of cosmology for the masses. That means the public came to know about many of the things of the physics which were very difficult for the layman to understand, that were understood in a proper manner by the public through his book, and offered an overview of space and time, the existence of God and the future. The work was an instant success, speeding more than 4 years atop the London Sunday Times bestseller list. Since its publication, it has sold millions of copies worldwide and has been translated into more than 40 languages. So his work became very famous. He started writing books and many of his books were very much interested, and that became a part of London's newspaper and of Sunday Times. So such a great scientist he was. Let us continue with the next paragraph. A Brief History of Time also wasn't as easy to understand as Sam has hoped. So in 2001, Hawking followed up his book with The Universe in a Nutshell. See, to make people understand the book, A Brief History of Time, he had to write one more book to simplify the things, as physics is the most hard subject and common people, they are not very much aware of science subjects. So to clear their doubts, he made one more book, The Universe in a nutshell. He published one book that was Universe in a Nutshell, which offered a more illustrated guide to cosmology's big theory. What do you mean by cosmology? The science of the origin and development of the universe, how the universe came into existence, and many of the details regarding the universe. This was on page number 115. We move on to page number 116. Here you can see Stephen Hawking's picture. Hawking authored the even more accessible A Brief History of Time, which further simplified the original work's core. Core means the central idea, the basics, concept, and touch upon the newest development in the field like string theory. It was one of the theory, many of the theories were there of the scientists. One of them was string theory. Now, together, these three books, along with Hawking's own research and papers, and articulate the physicist's personal search for science's holy grail. What do you mean by holy grail? The meaning here is written is a thing which is eagerly pursued or sought after. That means the people are easily and eagerly and trying to understand, read it, and get knowledge from these books. The study of the small to explain how the universe began. It's this kind of ambitious thinking that has allowed Hawkins, who claimed he can think in 11 dimensions. What do you mean by dimensions? Aspects, features, or facts. To lay out some big possibilities for humankind. See how great his mind was working. He was able to think in 11 dimensions. He is convinced that time travel is possible, which we see in the fiction books, even in the Doraemon cartoons we see. Such kind of time travel, in his mind it was possible, and that humans may indeed colonize other planets in the future. He was also thinking about colonies, or to live or to civilize on the other planets as well. Okay. Now we move on to the next paragraph. This is on page number 116. In September 2010, Hawking spoke against the idea that God would have created the universe in this book. See, what was his thinking? That God had not created this universe in one of his books. Mazallah, this is his thinking. The grand design. Hawking previously argued that belief is a creator could be compatible with modern scientific theories. His new work, however, concluded that the Big Bang was the inevitable consequence of the laws of physics and nothing more. He says that it's the only matter of the physical changes that's taking place which has made this world possible. Nauzubillah, it's not that truth. But according to these scientists and according to this book, he says that universe was created because of the Big Bang theory. And it is just a matter of physics or a law according to the physics, and it's nothing included regarding the God. Because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. According to Hawking, what it is? According to Hawkins, that because of the gravity, universe can create itself from nothing. Hawkins says spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing. Why universe exists, why we exist. Now, according to him, He said that because of the gravity, from nothing, all these things were created. The Grand Design was Hawkins' first major publication in almost a decade. Decade means 10 years period time. Within his new work, Hawkins set out to challenge Sir Isaac Newton's belief that the universe had to have been designed by God, simply because it could not have been born from chaos. Now, he challenged the theory of Sir Isaac Newton, as Isaac Newton had said that universe must have born because of the creation of God. Now we move on to page number 117. It is not necessary to invoke God to light the blue touch paper and set the universe going, Hawkins said. Now, according to his theory, he was an atheist. What do you mean by atheist? Who does not believe in the God or existence of God. Now see further his life, how it moves. At the age of 21, Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. At the age only of 21 years, he was being detected and having a disease. What was that disease? Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, that is ALS. Okay. Or this is also called as Lou Gehrig's disease. In a very simple sense, the nerves that control his muscles were shutting down. The control of his body was going from his. He was not able to control his hands, legs. At the time, doctors gave him 2.5 years to live. At that time, the doctors said that he will not live more than 2.5 years. See, such kind of severe disease, still he was working and doing the research work, and how hard he was putting his efforts to find out the truth regarding the universe and all. Hawkins first began to notice problems with his physical health while he was at Oxford. When he was at Oxford, he understood that he is not able to work properly. His body is not working properly. On occasions, he would trip and fall or slur his speech. That means he would suddenly fall down. His speech was not able to be properly spelled from his mouth. His tongue was slipped. That means many of the problems he would understand at this young age. He didn't look into the problem until 1963. During his first year at Cambridge, for the most part, Hawkins had kept these problems to himself. Now, as he was living away from his family, he was not exposing them or telling them that this kind of problem I am having. For the most part, Hawkins had kept this symptom to himself. But when his father took notice of the condition, he took Hawkins to see a doctor. For the next 2 weeks, the 21-year-old college student made his home at a medical clinic. For 2 weeks, he was kept at the medical clinic to diagnose. Diagnose means to do different kind of test on his body. Okay. Where he underwent a series of tests. As we go in for X-rays, sonography, that kind of all diagnoses were done of his body to see whether what problem was there in his body. They took a muscle sample from my arms, stick electrodes into me and injected some radio opaque fluid into my spine. What do you mean by radio opaque? That means because of that, the X-rays can be seen clearly. The radiologists do this thing, and because of that, they can be understanding or they can detect what kind of disease he was having. And watched it going up and down with X-rays as they tilted the bed. He once said, after all that, they didn't tell me what I had, except that it was not multiple sclerosis. and that I was an a typical case. A typical case means very unusual. Very rarely people have such kind of disease which Stephen Hawking was suffering from at the age of 21. Eventually, however, doctors did diagnose Hawkins with the early stages of ALS. That is, what do you mean by that? Long form of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. That means, simple way, the nerves that control his muscles were shutting down. That means his control over his nerves was getting low and low day by day. It was devastating news. Devastating means causing a severe shock to the family. At this age of 21, he was being diagnosed with such kind of severe disease. It was a shocking news for his family and his friends. But a few events prevented him from becoming completely despondent. Despondent means expecting the improvement. His condition was improving. The first of these came while Hawkins was still in the hospital. There he shared a room with a boy suffering from leukemia. Leukemia is a kind of a disease. It is a malignant progressive disease in which the bone marrow and the other blood forming organs produced increased number of abnormal white cells, and because of this the problem starts in the body. It's a kind of a cancer to the blood. Okay, now relatives to which his roommates was going through the disease through which that person, that boy was suffering, who was next to his bed. Hawkins later reflected his situation seemed more tolerable. He was thinking that my condition is far more better than that small boy who was suffering from bone marrow cancer or kind of a blood cancer. However, later reflected his situation seemed more tolerable. Not long after he was released from the hospital, Hawkins had a dream that he was going to be executed. That means he was going to die. He said his dream made him realize that there were still things to do with his life. Now he started thinking that very less time I have got and I have more works to do. So he started working in a more efficient way, that I am not having much time to lose. Okay? In a sense, Hawkins' disease helped him become the noted scientist. Inshallah, we'll continue next time. Jazakallah.